All right, good evening. We are going to convene the Sherborn Board of Selectmen meeting of June 10, 2015. And we start with the reading of the agenda by the town administrator.
Thank you. First, we'll vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. And to my knowledge, there are none of those items. Then we'll have a public comment period of about 10 minutes. And then consideration of a proclamation for Amelia Ray Walsh for Girl Scout Gold Award. And then a quick review of the committee vacancy list. And then a stormwater update with Bridget Graziano, the conservation agent, and Ed Wagner, the CM&D director. And then a discussion of the fiscal year 2016 town council contract. And then under routine business, we have staff reports from town administrator and finance director, although the finance director will not be here. And then selectmen reports, Sean Colleen with a playground update. And then a meeting calendar review and set the next meeting date of June 24th, 2015. And then consideration of approval of minutes, and there are a number of minutes being considered.
Are there any additions?
No.
On subtractions, I'd note that no one has signed up for public comment, so that's not a necessary item on the list. And also, I'd like to propose the removal of the discussion of the 2016 town council contract, because first, I'm going to be recusing myself on that. That would leave only two selectmen to discuss that item. And that's really a discussion that should take place with the full board and not just two selectmen.
Did you make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
What's the timing on this contract?
The contract it's a 1-year contract.
I read the proposal. But
Oh, okay.
When do we need to get this done by?
Well, typically you sign it before June 30th, so it's effective July 1st. But we would, if we're not going to do it that in time, we'll talk to them and give them a heads up that we'd like to be going month to month under the same terms until such time that we can resolve a new contract.
And we do have a meeting out for June, a proposed meeting for the 24th. But hopefully there'll be a full board. So, all in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay. Then that brings us to a discussion of a proclamation. And I see we have the subject matter of the proclamation here. I must say, I've read the 2014 newspaper article about the activities that you did. It's quite an achievement for all the things that you've done. But we have a proposed proclamation. One of you gentlemen care to read it aloud?
Sure. It's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Sherborn, a proclamation. Whereas Amelia Ray Walsh, who has earned the highest achievement in Girl Scouting, the Gold Award, and whereas Girl Scout Gold Award recipients are part of an elite group of women who embody community leadership, leaving behind a sustainable legacy. Whereas Amelia has demonstrated her ability to set a goal and exhibited a personal desire and tenacity to follow through successfully. Now, therefore, we, the selectmen of the town of Sherborn, on behalf of all its citizens, extend their congratulations and best wishes on this occasion of the Girl Scout Gold Award ceremony. In witness whereof, we have caused the seal of this town to be affixed to this proclamation on this 10th day of June in the year 2015.
So moved what was read. Is there a second?
Second.
And under discussion, I think we as a community are quite proud of you. Quite proud that you had the vision to come up with this plan and the tenacity to follow through with it. It's wasn't an easy project. We've seen projects that get done in a few weeks, but this is one that required you to tend a growing garden for basically a year. It was quite an endeavor. So, congratulations. Thank you. All in favor? Oh, issuing proclamation.
Aye.
And if you let us sign it and you come up here, we'll actually give it to you.
Yeah, we're gonna wanna get it back to get 2 more signatures.
I'm
No?
gonna, I'm going to check my yeah, get the 2 signatures.
Oh, so we don't give it to her?
Just give it to her tonight, and I'll go to
There's a ceremony at the State House?
Yeah, Chucky, do you want to explain what's...
Yeah, the Girl Scouts
You
want
need
to, like, the Boy Scouts have an eagle ceremony at the church. And they usually do two young men, or maybe 3 at a time, once in a while one. Mark knows more about it than I do. I've been father of an eagle or 2. The Girl Scouts have a ceremony at the State House, which will be Monday afternoon. And all the girls from across the state who have earned the Girl Scout Gold Award will be honored there. And our legislators have said that they will be there for that. Senator Johnson and Representative Lindsay.
Well, Amelia, if you would come forward. It's our honor and privilege. Of course, if she wants to make a speech, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Committee vacancy list. Dave, do you want to take that for a
Yes.
while?
As you know, each year we go back and review update the vacancy list, and then we publish it and start advertising for candidates to come forward. And then we also notify anybody on the committees that are up for reappointment to find out if they're still interested in being reappointed. And we convey to them that their interest in being reappointed is not an automatic appointment, that they will be considered just as if there's any other people interested in that seat. So I'd like to just read down through the list and the number of vacancies in each one. So,
Please do. I would note there's one vacancy that a number of people have told me that we need to fill that's not on the list, and that's the Leland Farms trustee.
yes, we have advertised that too a couple of
It's still on the
times,
website.
Yes.
but it's not on here, you're right.
So please do read this so people
Okay.
know what is open and
Okay.
what they can apply for.
For the Agricultural Commission, there's one vacancy. It's for a 3-year term. The Bay Circuit Greenbelt Representative, there's one vacancy for a 1-year term. The Board of Appeals, there's one vacancy for a voting member. That's a 3-year term, and a 1 vacancy seat on the associate member for a 3-year term.
Are Ron and Rick not going to re-up?
I believe they're requesting to re-up.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
So what does the name mean?
So that name means that they have
the person holding this seat is
wants to be considered.
requesting to be considered for the appointment. But they will be brought back with their name and any other forms that we receive.
So just so I understand it, like under the Agricultural Commission, there's no name there. That means the incumbent is not willing to continue? to
Or
serve?
we haven't heard back from them with it either way.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to read the names of the individual seats because we would, when we come back to do the appointments, we would read the name of all those people.
David, what's our usual timing on this?
I mean, late May and June is when we try to get as many appointments done as possible, but they end up dragging into, well, they go year round. They're never fully seated.
But we would be looking to make these appointments
Yep,
as many as we can at the next meeting.
Yep, June 24th, and then probably the first meeting in July.
Okay.
We'll have a list of a number of them. And what we'll do is we'll read the committee, and then we'll read the applicants, and then you'll review the forms, and you can take a vote at that time. One thing we haven't done in the past is required them to be here. I don't know if the board wants them, if they apply, do they need to come to the night that it's being reviewed to be interviewed, or are you fine just with the paperwork?
We had in our standard operating procedures the option to interview because sometimes nobody on the board knew a particular candidate. It was a chance for not only the board to get to know them, but for the public to see who they were. So it depended on the familiarity with the particular.
Okay, so we'll use our judgment. It hasn't been an issue in the past, but if they're new, then we'll make sure that they come in.
We are hoping for new blood, fresh people move into town. This is your town. And the way this government works, it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And we need all citizens to come forward and help us operate. So even if you're not known to the selectmen, more than welcome to apply.
With the Board of Appeals, what I was going to note is that the selectmen do appoint an associate to that board. Some of these other boards, for instance, the Council on Aging, a lot of these other committees have associates or assisted members. They're not appointed by the selectmen, they just seem to be appointed by the committee, and they're non-voting members. But this is a specific seat provided in, I think it's statute or bylaw, that the selectmen appoint the associate member. And the idea of that is to get somebody trained for when there's a vacancy in the real board. Cable TV Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy for a 3-year term. Conservation Commission, 2 vacancies for 3-year terms. Council on Aging, 2 vacancies for 3-year term. Disability Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy for a 3-year term. Elderly and Disabled Taxation Committee, 1 vacancy for a 3-year term. Elder Housing Committee, 1 vacancy with a 3-year term. Employee Health Insurance Advisory Committee, 2 vacancies. I've requested that the new finance director revisit that in light of some of the recent discussions we've had about moving to the GIC, which is I believe that's going to be on the June 24th agenda. So we want to make sure that this Insurance Advisory Committee is in place. Energy Committee, 2 vacancies for 3-year terms. Farm Pond Advisory Committee, 2 regular vacancies for 3-year terms, 1 associate vacancy. Historical Commission, 1 vacancy with a 3-year term. Historic District Commission, 1 vacancy for a 3-year term. Metropolitan Area Planning Council, 2 vacancies for a 1-year term.
Before you continue, there's a special statute with regard to the Historic District Commission that says that there has to be like an architect, there has to be a member of the district and so on. Which position is open?
I don't have that in front of me, but we will, when we advertise, I'll look. I thought that it was somebody from that district. I think there's a requirement that there's 1 person in that district. I think that's always been the need.
So we're looking for a resident who lives within the historic
Is that
district.
your memory? Yeah, I believe that that's a need, but I'll double check that. Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, 2 vacancies for a 1-year term. These are, just to give you some background, that's right now usually held with the planning board. So it's Gino and some other member of the planning board that comes forward. That's what it's typically been in the past, but it could, if the selectmen so choose, it could be a selectman that is the representative to that with the planner or some other person if they show interest. Personnel Board, 3 vacancies, 1 for a 2-year term and 2 for 3-year terms. Recycling Committee, 4 vacancies. There are 2 two-year terms and 2 three-year terms. Sherborn Arts Council, 1 vacancy with 3-year term. Sherborn Open Space Committee, 9 vacancies, 3 one-year term, 3 two-year term, 3 three-year terms.
Is that the whole committee?
Yeah, I don't think we have any members on there. Leland Farms Trustee, 1 seat on that. I believe that's a 3-year term. Southwest Area Planning Committee, 1 vacancy for a 1-year term. Town Center Water System Options Committee, 7 vacancies. We're proposing 3-year terms. When the committee was started a year ago, I think it was just commissioned for 1 year, and it still is doing work, so we'd like to keep it around. Town Forest Committee, 1 vacancy for a 3-year term. Traffic Safety Committee, 1 vacancy, 3-year term.
That, I think, needs to be updated to 2 vacancies. Mine being one.
Yeah, yeah. 2 vacancies for Traffic Safety Committee. Ones that, Public Safety Committee is, we scheduled them for June 24th, right? Yeah. So Public Safety Committee is a new committee that's had a few meetings. The chair, Arthur Fenno, he's going to be coming in. He has a few recommended changes to the charge, and he'll present those, and you'll be able to meet Arthur on those on that day. So when we update the charge, then we'll actually know how many vacancies are on that committee. So, and then I also need to find out the Wildlife Committee, how many seats are there. And then you'll also have a list of other staff positions, all the appointments for privacy officer and building inspections and different inspectors. What other ones come in front?
Keeper of the lockup,
Keeper of the lockup, right, right.
where we
Yeah.
put bad select.
I always wondered, we don't have a fence viewer. Aren't we required to have a fence viewer?
We did many
We
years.
do, yes.
Oh, we do? He's still viewing fences. So these are just committee vacancies.
What
But we'll
about
bring you a
the-
list of staff appointments as well.
Mass Bay Transportation Authority.
Yeah, we have somebody who already came forward for that. And then,
So that appointment's been filled?
no, it's not filled. No, this should be on here.
The MBTA?
After the MAPC one, it should be MBTA. This is the MBTA advisory rep. Advisory board rep. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We just voted on the state level to create a fiscal control board for the MBTA, and the MBTA advisory board agreed, voted to support it. So did Sherborn vote yes there on the MBTA? Or were we not represented?
I've been the rep, so I think I've only gone to 2 meetings, so I'm not sure which meeting you were talking about, but I do not recall voting on that.
Well, the MBTA advisory board voted to support the governor's proposal for a oversight board. And I am, in my capacity as an advisor to the governor on the local government advisory committee, voted Sherborn's vote in favor of the financial control board. I just want to be sure.
That we didn't
Sherborn's
vote
votes were
differently.
Consistent.
Yeah, well, if a no vote, I mean, if an uncast vote is recorded as an absent vote, then we're not in contrast with each other.
Okay, good, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe all these vacancies are listed on the website.
They are almost all listed. We're right now going through a few jobs that aren't on the list, so I assume they aren't posted.
Leland Farms is on.
Leland
It's been
Farms
on
Farms
from
is
day one.
on.
Yeah.
Anyone with their home computers where they can
And they were
see
put
if
in
anything
the.
interesting.
I thought MBTA was, we advertised for that. I actually know we advertised for MBTA back along when it was, we had talked about it one time before. And it was, I think I had talked to Mike about getting me out of being that representative and getting somebody else in. So we had advertised at that time.
And there's a press release in the paper with all those papers.
Yes, and we do a press release with all the vacancies that gets printed in the paper.
Any comments?
Couple. I mean, I'm just trying to understand the process here because we got an awful lot of vacancies and not a whole lot of time. And some of these are in the bylaws, right? Are the required committees, and some of them are committees that have been established to meet needs.
Very few of them are in the bylaw.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, can we, when you're gonna put this list out again, can we prioritize those?
Yeah.
Because it would seem to me those would be the ones that we need to work on.
Yeah. Traffic safety is in the bylaw.
Council on Aging,
Yeah, and then the personnel committee.
Board of Appeals.
So there's
Personnel, right.
Those are the ones I think we really need to focus on.
Right.
And then, I know, Paul, you've been active in trying to recruit people. And I don't know if the previous board has already been doing this, and you've got, I don't, want to trip over ourselves if we go out and try and
Well, I just
talk to
asked for
people
the
about
list
these
so
things.
I can do some recruiting, and I thought while I was at the beer fest, I'd walk around with the
Sign them up.
and corner people.
I'm not sure that's a fair way to recruit.
Let's get there a little later in the process. And,
Great, I'll see you on the 24th. It's worth making the point again that this list does, one, it's a living list. Two, it's on the website. It's always on the website. It changes. May not always be 100% accurate, but I think throughout last year, there was probably 20 to 25 that were always on this list. We just went north of 50, but these aren't all real vacancies either. These are up for reappointment. So there's a handful of names. There's a handful of names I can already pick that are people that I know are going to want to be reappointed. Doesn't mean we have to, but
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean there's a vacancy there either, yet.
Right, and sometimes we contact them and recontact them. We give them considerable time if we know that they want to be up for it and we don't have any other interested parties. We just continue to recontact them until we get that application.
So if we have ideas, we should contact you and just discuss it and make sure we're not recruiting somebody for a slot that somebody's expecting to fill.
Yeah. Any ideas, or if you want to check a certain person if they've already submitted an application, or if you've talked to somebody and want to follow up to see if they actually submitted it. Yeah.
Or check with Paul's list late Friday night. Someone can follow up and call all those people.
Anything further?
Nope, not on the vacancies.
Okay, that brings us to a stormwater update, and we're exactly on time. And our featured guests are Ed Wagner, our CM&D Director, and Bridget, our Conservation Agent.
So just a preview on this. This is can be a complicated process. It's initiated by the EPA, and there are a lot of acronyms. The town has voted a couple of times, I think, to put money towards this. We've spent some of it, so there's an ongoing budget. And what I was hoping to do is have Bridget give like the 10,000-foot view of the overview of exactly what it is and why we care about it and what the whole process is. And then with Mr. Wagner, show what the results of what we've actually been doing on the ground as opposed to the planning part that Bridget is going through.
I should say I have a piece of this in my state role. We have been opposing the issuance of the new NPDES permit, and the grounds for our opposition has been that it imposes too many costs on local communities. We've had a number of communities run studies, And it turns out statewide, this is billions of dollars, I think it was 1.3 billion statewide, to comply with the forms of these permits. So we've been objecting to all the permits language. There's a current version of the permit that was issued, and we not only opposed it on behalf of the 351 cities and towns, but we also convinced DEP to oppose it. Massachusetts DEP is a co-issuer of the permit. And so we had, thanks to the Baker administration cooperation, the new director of DEP wrote a letter to EPA that basically says that if they want Massachusetts to co-issue this permit, significant portions of the permit requirements have to be withdrawn. And the reason for that is the huge financial burden. This is one of those classic cases where the federal government has decided that all kinds of neat things should be done to improve the environment, and so then they're going to require communities to do all this work to clean up the environment, but what's left out of that is, well, for Massachusetts, the 1.3 billion to pay for it. And when you multiply that times 50 states, and then there's territories and islands, Guam, all that kind of stuff, you're looking at a very substantial price tag. So it's inherently unfair for the federal government to put all these requirements on us. That means, based on the latest move from DEP, we don't see this permit being issued in the near future. That letter from DEP was such a victory for the cities and towns and such a setback to EPA, again because DEP is a co-issuer of this permit. So we see they're going to have to withdraw the current terms and redo portions of it. So I hope that doesn't ruin your presentation, because you're doing a bit of analysis on stuff that they're requiring us to do. But at the end of the day, we don't want to pay for that, and the taxpayers of Sherborn don't want to pay for it, nor do the taxpayers anywhere in Massachusetts want to pay for it.
No, you're absolutely right. It's one huge unfunded mandate, and a number of the things that they're requiring us to do are very difficult for us to do without the funding. What we've accomplished so far is to do the bare minimum, and our objective here is to come into compliance with the earlier permit.
My turn.
Go ahead.
Bridget Graziano, Conservation Agent. I'll give a brief background on the recent activity. Well, I'll give a background right now on where we were for permitting, and then where we're at now. So just to recap, because I know we have some new members, welcome. In 2012, at the town meeting, we appropriated $160,000 to be allocated towards stormwater. And this is based on portions of a 2003 permit that the town of Sherborn is not in current compliance with. And also a portion of it was in anticipation of the drop of the 2012 North Coastal NIPD's permit. So currently, we've been working to be in compliance with the 2003 permit, and $33,000 of that $160,000 was allocated specifically to be in compliance with the 2003 permit. And the reason why that's so important to the town of Sherborn is when or if the new permit does drop, which we were anticipating obviously 2012, that hasn't happened. And it's been pushed off, but that you have to certify under penalties and perjuries that you're in compliance. And we would have to show that if we were asked by the EPA. So right now, as of 2013, we began to work on compliance with the 2003 permit. Our first step was to purchase the People GIS mapping system, which you see a little bit of above, which includes Maps Online, which allows the town to provide data to the public and also to in-house staff to review locations of stormwater management systems in town, which include outfalls, catch basins, drainage systems, which outfalls are required to be mapped under the 2003 permit. So we purchased that in 2013. That was a total of $18,000. That was for, a portion of that was for setup, and then for first year for People GIS to maintain the system for us and train staff here at Town Hall. In 2014, we purchased a GPS unit, a Leica, which is the type of system it is, and that was approximately $10,000. We also paid $5,000 for the setup of the GPS and training of staff. Now let me explain that a little bit. So that's a total of approximately $15,000, which under our contract with AECom, which we contracted to work on our stormwater, the $33,000 for compliance with 2003, and then there was $109,000 to comply with supposedly the dropped permit for 2012, which never came. A portion of that $109,000 was $15,000 to be used for the GPS unit, which Ed will show you what he's done with mapping of our stormwater management system using that GPS unit. So that was a total of $15,000, which was under the 109, which has been released after a meeting with David and Diane. Additionally, there was a cost of $1,700 for what's called Simply City. Simply City is the program that allows Ed to be in the field with his staff and to map these basins and outfalls. And that $1,700 will be paid under the FY 15 budget. And at this point, we have begun the work under the $33,000, and so we've been working with AECom, who was hired under a contract that was signed by Jim Purcell. That was dated June 27, 2012, and I have that available for anyone who needs that. But you have a quick little synopsis piece of paper in your packets that states what's to be done under the contract with AECom. And so that breaks down the $33,000 and the 109, $109,000. That's to be used for the different segments, the 2003, and it was supposed to be 2012, so that's what it may say, but obviously that, again, that permit never came to fruition. So right now we have in the field 2 AECom staff, which are doing the work under that contract, and Ed and his staff doing work to map the catch basins and outfalls. Well, actually, just the outfalls. Ed would like to map the catch basins, so there's one other component that we're looking to discuss with the selectmen tonight. But do you want to show them? Ryan?
The People GIS, one of the reasons we went with this system here was the lower cost and the versatility that allowed not only CM&D, but also fire, conservation, and other departments to utilize the system. And like any GIS system, it consists of different layers. So you have a Google map base layer of the town, and then as you zoom in or you can click on different layers. Right now this is the stormwater system, so it's just the stormwater basins. At a later date, when we map out all of the wetland areas, vernal pools, things like that, I can come over to the side, click vernal pools, and then all the vernal pools will pop up on the map system. And the way we've started the system out here is going into some of the smaller neighborhoods where we weren't out in traffic. We could work with the units and get to familiarize ourselves with the equipment. And as you see, zoom in, it also has the parcels and owners' information at a click of a button. Farm Road. I'm going to bring you over to Pine Hill School, one of the first areas I mapped out. Now here, if you look at Pine Hill, what was involved here was going along with the unit, standing over the squares are catch basins, the round covers are manholes, the arrows give a direction of flow, and then the outfalls, you can see down here, are marked with little triangles. The GPS unit, its accuracy under perfect conditions with no overhead trees and such, is down to 2 centimeters. So we start off by going out, logging the catch basin manhole location, and then what we do is return to the field with a tablet, pull the covers, and identify the different pipes that are connecting. And then it's a matter of clicking on manhole to catch basin, and you can develop your entire map system right from there with a click of the button back at the office. As you can see, is an overshot of the entire school. The only piece I didn't finish is in the back here. But you can see that all the Pine Hill drainage here, issues that we had last year, we're now completely familiar with. We have it completely mapped, and we got a really good idea what's going on there. In the future, I'm going to be developing separate layers. One layer is going to be a street sign layer, where at a click of a button we can identify all of our stop signs, where our inventory is. Bridget's is going to be working on vernal pools, wetland areas. I spoke with the fire chief. We're going to be developing a layer that'll identify all of our emergency landing zones and also all of our hydrant locations with elevations.
But it's not available for the assessor?
All of this will be available for any town department. We have the ability to limit public access to our sensitive information.
Well, that's another piece of it. I know in some of my other communities, the public can access these maps to see their own property, see their neighbor's property, and if there's developments going in, they can check on the status of the development.
Yep.
So wouldn't we want there to be public access?
Oh, absolutely. We actually currently have access to this through the assessor's website. I'd like to see, I'll be talking with David to maybe move that around, get it more in the forefront, but I'll definitely be adding a link on the CMD page to access any of this information.
Bridget, how does this marry up with the DEP's layers?
Okay.
Can the two of these,
They can. It's a little...
DEP already has a bunch of those layers.
Yep. So it's an easy fix. I actually just met with Jim Esterbrook. He's our contact for People GIS, and I had a meeting and I asked the other department heads that would be utilizing it, like Paul's mentioning, the assessor, Board of Health, Building Department, Conservation. Ed's already using it. So what we would do is we would post maps online, link to data that has DEP's data already uploaded. So if you have something like, Gino and I have ArcGIS for our offices, that data that we've had and even the data we've created in-house, shape files and geodatabases, can be uploaded to this system and can be available to the public through a link system on your page. So my link would say something like look up natural resources. So someone would be able to click on it, they put in their address, and zoom, they'd have all the wetlands maps, or they would have all the well locations, they'd have any of the data that's available in on DEP's Mass GIS system for data layers. And any in-house stuff that we're willing to give out to the public can be posted to our different web pages and made it accessible to the public very easily. Some of the stuff, like Ed is saying, drainage lines, stormwater systems, if you had town water, town sewer, you may want to keep those in-house specifically, and we would have sign-in information that we would be able to directly sign on to Maps Online and look at special in-house information. And that would only be stuff that's like infrastructure that we wouldn't want compromised. But any of this other data can be made available, and I have been encouraging the other town departments to work towards this, but it does get a little more complicated depending on what each department would like to do, like do building permits online, things like that. That will be an additional cost. But something like posting data is available now.
I just wanted to add that talking to the departments once they've trained this and have been looking at identifying what they can use the GIS system for, we've left it up to them to decide, whether it's useful to them and cost effective. by contacting People GIS and getting some sort of quote of what it would be. And they'll have to put that in their individual budget to pay for that modification to allow them to be using the system. So it's not done in like a central tech services thing or under facilities or anything like that. The individual departments would have to bring that forward as part of their budget request.
So how many people do we have trained to use the system?
7?
To use the GPS or the GIS?
The GIS.
GIS, I don't remember who was present at the meeting. It was a long time ago when we all got trained.
Police chief, fire chief, Carol Marple attended. I believe Nancy Hess was there
It was
also.
about
How
7.
many people that can use it?
I've been the one who's really kind of been diving into it. Bridget's
I use it
been
here
dabbling
and in another town.
One of the things I've put in for was assured to hopefully receive is a grant coming in July from Maya. It's a $10,000 grant, and they specifically authorize it for the use of GIS and GIS training and systems. And one of the things I discussed with David was utilizing it for some further training for the developing our own layers, number one. Number two, more form training. And number three is they were going to develop and implement a work order system for CM&D. And in the future, I'd like to have, my goal is to have other layers for potholes, tree work, things like that, so that I'll be able to pretty much have a tablet for work crews, and as they're completing tasks, they can log it on, and we can click on different layers and see the potholes that are done, see the potholes where they're concentrated for road work, tree work, things like that.
I'd encourage the expansion of the use of this to other departments and to the public. And if there's an additional cost that's associated with it, it's a cost well spent.
It is, the mapping and documenting of your infrastructure is, it's something Sherborn's been behind on, and I'm very excited to get out there and develop a lot of these maps.
So the map that I did provide here is the new location for the urbanized area, and this is based on the 2010 census that was finalized with all the data in 2012. So I'll be working with AECom to figure out what their scope of work is based on this change, because when we initially submitted to them, the map in your packet is the map that they actually had. So there has been a change in the size of the urbanized area, so we will have to work with AECom to make sure that there's no big changes, especially financially.
There's been a change in our urbanized area?
Yeah, based on the 2010 census, which is your map you have right in front of you.
It's the yellow area
Yes,
is now the urbanized area.
yes. Like, I think Parks Drive, Jackson Road, where Dopping Brook is the border, that was never included. But it also was reduced in other spots. So I'm going to work with AECom on that to just formulate a plan and see if there's any issues, even though I did receive an email and she didn't think there were any issues. One of the major things is that when she was inspecting the outfalls, she did not find any illicit discharge. And part of what the town is charged with under the 2003 permit is the IDD, which is illicit discharge detection system. And so you're looking if there's any water running out of your outfalls during dry conditions, and that would indicate that there's potentially illicit discharge into your system, and what your plan is for that. And after speaking with Kate, it seems like the town isn't running into that, which is actually great
Excellent.
for Sherborn. So if there was additional work that I think Ed had mentioned if AECom would be able to implement, and they felt that based on the fact that they didn't have any indications of IDDE, that they would be able to incorporate some extra work and still stay within the budget of the $33,000, of which, if you read through my little memo, there's actually $28,470 left, so we haven't spent that much of it. So it would really be great if there is additional work that could be done in conjunction with Ed and his staff, that would be available to be done for the 2003 permit under the $33,000. So that scope of work, I've asked to be drafted up and sent to my office, and I'll present that to David, and then we can come back if we need to, but we wouldn't be changing the cost.
Just a couple of questions from the material you provided. On page 3, you say 2013, 2015, work completed. And then it's listed attendance at the EPA, October 2016.
Oh, it's supposed to be 15.
How can you have completed it when it's
It's 2014.
away?
That was me.
So that's 14?
Yeah, that's 14. I'm sorry. So I went to an EPA workshop on October 24th, 2014 to review where we were at with the draft permit for North Coastal MS4s, and there was a gentleman from EPA presenting there who wanted to like give the towns an idea of like when we should be expecting the new permit to drop, because it obviously keeps getting pushed. So when I spoke with him, we were in the draft form where towns were able to make comments till December 31st, 2014, where they would accept all comments and finalize a draft. And then they were thinking they would take all of 2015 to review that, review all the comments, and then the end of 2015, this is what I was told, they would be dropping the final permit to the towns, and then they would give towns their budget season to allocate money towards stormwater, and then the final would be July 16, which is where which would start our clock ticking to file under the NIPDs for MS4 permits for small municipalities, and that gives us that 120 days to file the notice of intent. 90 days to file the notice of intent, sorry.
And
So that was the one that I attended, but Paul, you're saying something different may have happened recently, so I'm a little out of the loop, I guess, in the past few months.
the next series of questions I have has to do with whether or not we're in compliance with the 2003 permit. And in connection with that, I note that we did file in May 2015 the annual report that's required.
Right, I
And you-
put that in your packets, and we're continuing to work towards compliance, and in reality, the only thing that's in non-compliance is this mapping of the outfalls and review of the IDD program. So we're supposed to develop a plan based on what's found in the field at the outfalls during dry conditions, and that plan would be filed, with the town and then with the EPA, but they're finding that that's not happening, so their report wouldn't be long, it would be short.
I do thank both of you for filing this thing on time. The way government works, I've learned, working for the state now, that literally, if this requirement to file a piece of paper, you got to meet that deadline to file a piece of paper. It almost doesn't matter what the paper says, but as long as it's got the right title,
Yep.
and it's filed on time, well then, you're okay. But if you don't file with the right title on time, then you're flagged. There is an entry I wanted to ask you about on page 3, illicit discharge detection and elimination. And it said progress on goals permit year 12, which, as I understand it, the permit issued in 2003, so year 12 was 2015.
Wait, no, it's 12 years since the permit dropped.
Which was 2003.
Right.
So year 12 would be 2015.
No, it's like
12 plus 3.
so 2004 is the first year, 5 second year, third. That's how we're counting it. Not 12, not like 2012.
No, I understand.
Oh.
So permit year 12 is 2015.
3 plus 12.
Oh,
3 plus 12 years.
well, it's basically from May to May. You're reporting.
I think what she's saying is it was issued in 2003, so 2004 was the year one, and then going forward, we've been issuing the permit
Well,
for 12.
what calendar year is year 12?
Are we in year 12?
Yes. 2015.
Okay, and then permit year 13 is the planned activities.
That's that's next year.
Right, so I took that to mean, since we filed this report on May 1, 2015, that year 12 was what was being reported on in the report, and year 13 is what we're going to do next year. Is that,
Right.
Yes.
okay. Then on page that starts number 3, illicit discharge, for last year it says working on draft new illicit discharge policy in item 3.3.
3.3. Right, yes. I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that part of your regulations?
Yep, currently have a draft. I believe Gino has reviewed it a couple times with the planning board, and they were going to be bringing it forward, I believe, in an article for town meeting, because they wanted it to have more teeth than just a regulation. And that was something that the DEP and the EPA were pushing for,
So
was an
this
irregular.
this is going to be an article for the upcoming town meeting.
I believe that's what Gino was working towards. I don't want to speak for him, but I believe so.
But so far, we found none.
Illicit discharge?
Yeah.
We've, in going through, I am aware, well, illicit discharges under our current regulations allow for the director of CM&D to issue a waiver or permit for it. They're currently going through the records. There are no permits for illicit discharges in Sherborn. However, I am aware of a couple of them. And what I'm doing is I go through and I'm GPSing the basins. When it comes time for the survey with the tablet, what I've been doing is if I have any plastic pipes coming into the basin, I'm marking it down in the notes that we have a possible illicit discharge, so that we can flag those, go back later and trace the pipes. I know that there's a number of hardship cases where people have tied in roof drains, some basins in low-lying areas in their properties because they have absolutely no place else to put the water. Under the old regulations, they're allowed, and under the new NEPS permit, they are going to be completely disallowed. And in fact, I'm going to be required to notify the residents that they have to be cut and capped and removed.
Yeah, that's what I was leading to, is basically what do these new discharge policy,
Yep, and the new discharge policy is going to be
this
that
new
they're
bylaw is going to say then that all these illicit discharges have to be eliminated rather than permitted.
Yep.
Right. So under the illicit discharge, AECom has not found, to answer your question, AECom has not found any current illicit discharges. Now remember, the illicit discharges that you're looking for are just in the urbanized areas, so they will not be addressed in any other areas of town. So currently they have not found any. I don't know if you have, but they have not. And Jill, let me just explain why it's such a big deal. So it's a real concern to the town's stormwater system, because every person in the town especially is supposed to be compliant with EPA regulations, and part of those regulations, like when you go to replace a road or install new catch basins or look at your stormwater areas where your outfalls are discharging, you're going to have to comply with the standards for TSS removal, total suspended solids, at 80%. So you don't want to have anyone discharging their driveway or runoff into your system. Additionally, your systems are going to be designed to hold a 100-year storm, and if you have additional impervious surface from a source that you're not aware of, your stormwater system cannot handle it. And then that would also cause more maintenance on the end of the town if any sediment accrued into the catch basins, because under the new permit, if it ever does come to us, you'll be required to clean your catch basins when they reach 50%. So you don't want that to happen on a more frequent basis if you have somebody that's discharging their driveway runoff into your catch basin through some piping system. So it's really important that the town make sure that there aren't any connections, but it will only be evaluated under these requirements in the urbanized area. So there could be other sources in town that will be up to the town if they want to enforce some specific bylaw or policy on that.
But the bylaw's only going to deal with the urbanized area, right? Or
I mean, I
is
guess
it-
But
that would be up
moves
to the
around.
town.
That can move. We had a couple babies born on Parks Drive, and all of a sudden there's a spot over on the other side of town. It's urbanized.
But, well,
It's in flux.
again, it goes back to what the draft says, and I'm thinking that if this new board follows the policies that prior boards have established, we like to see this stuff earlier rather than later. And our timeline, we have this notice of intent stuff that pushes things into November. That may seem like a long time away, but if Gino's already gone through a couple of drafts, it might be helpful for us to get a
Absolutely.
sense of what we're
And
going to
the
be
other thing
looking at
the
here.
other thing to keep in mind too is a lot of these articles in progress that we're making, like Sean said, your urbanized area can change in a heartbeat. Do you really want to come back and re-vote a whole new article? Any regulations that we put into effect
It really
should
changed
be.
in a heartbeat. I mean, is it driven by the census?
It is, right, so the next census is until 2016.
Look at that pocket.
No, yeah, but then
Parks Drive and
Oh, no,
Jackson
22.
Road.
But it's every 10 years.
Yeah,
But in 10
I
years,
mean,
next time it comes
it's a
out,
pretty slow heartbeat.
but you don't want to have to, you should adopt a policy as the whole town. An illicit discharge is an illicit discharge.
No doubt. Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
So just see if I understand this. To meet the 2003 requirements, we need to map all the outfalls.
correct.
What percentage do you think we've got done so far?
The outfalls, I'd say we're probably 25% overall townwide urbanized area. I think we're at, what, 90%? Yeah, about
Let
90.
me be more specific. We only need the outfalls in the urbanized area.
I'm sorry?
To meet the 2003 requirements, we need the
Urbanized
outfalls
area,
in the
yes.
urbanized area.
Correct.
Because you're almost done with that.
What's that?
You're almost done with that. And if we have no illicit discharge, then are we good under the 2003 permit?
Right, so as long as all the outfalls are mapped in the urbanized area, and they provide a report saying that they did not, AECOM did not witness any illicit discharge, and Ed's in an agreement and signs that, and everyone signs that, great. And then you're in compliance. And that just needs to be mapped and available if anybody would like to see it. And I was mentioning that there was an additional work that Ed was asking AECOM if they would be able to provide that service when they were out in the field to sort of utilize their time effectively, since they're already looking at these catch basins and outfalls. And that's where, if the IDDE plan doesn't have to be developed because there's no issues in the urbanized area that they're witnessing, then maybe some other work could be incorporated in there. But we don't need to.
The point I was making with the contractor was if they're already in the field, they already have the GPS unit, they're already lifting covers, they might as well document everything they find right then and there. Rather than saying, well, we're just tracing this pipe to see where it goes, they should be documenting everything in the line as they go. There's no point in coming back to redocument.
But I think Mark is making an important point, and he made it better than I did when I had asked the same question. We need to be in compliance with the 2003 permit. That's just plain federal law. And here we are 12 years later, and we're almost there. And it sounds like we're on the 3rd yard line, facing the end zone. I would second his implicit motion, which he didn't make, but the idea is, let's wrap that up. Let's get ourselves in compliance with that permit. Let's do what needs to be done to be able to say to the federal government that the town of Sherborn has complied with the permit.
And I think that's important. What's the deadline?
I think you're-
So we're out of compliance now, and we really should be
Always have been.
in compliance as soon as possible, right?
Yep. I think you misunderstand too. The point is, yeah, we are right on the 3rd yard line. I've got a phone call into them to wrap this up. There's a couple outfalls that I know that they missed that I'm going to show them where they are. We're going to mark them, and as Bridget said, is we're going to get them to do the reporting. Her and I spoke today about this, and she recommended letting them do the reporting and wrapping this up, and that is the direction we are going.
Okay. Because I think we want to have a really good relationship with DEP when we start to talk about some of the things we're going to be talking about at our next meeting. And we need to, I think, we don't want to have this hanging out there when we're going to be going to them possibly and asking for help.
All makes sense. I second the, it's really a motion to ask you to wrap this thing up in as short a order as possible.
So could we request a date commitment? We don't have David here, I wish we did.
When do you think, how much time do you need to wrap this thing up?
I'd feel more comfortable asking AECom. I don't know, I believe they would be wrapping it up by the end of the summer.
Labor Day, September 1?
I don't know, I don't want to say, because I'm not in the field with them.
I think that would be a safe date. They've got a few other points to grab, and then it's a matter of them just compiling their reports.
It's more than that, though. Let me ask this, because you will find illicit discharges. You know about them. So you're not done. You're not in compliance just knowing it's there, even with the 2003.
You are. You don't have to remove them under 2.
I didn't say you have to remove them.
You just have to know about them.
You gotta know what they are, right?
Yes.
So there's a little more to it than just saying, there's a pipe coming from the, I don't know, fire station. I wonder what's coming in it.
Yep.
There's more to it.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
Be even in compliance with 2003.
Yes.
So we're asking AECom to do something. That's not the end game. We still don't have to cut off our own building yet, but we do need to prove where it comes from. So there's a little bit more, it's going to keep going, is my point. So they're saying they're going to find all the outfalls, they're going to map the rest of the catch basins. That still may not be the final point.
And also keep in mind too, given Sherborn's makeup of houses, we don't have any big industrial chemical plants, things like that. 99% of these illicit discharges are going to be tied to a storm drain in the backyard, somebody's roof drain. Somebody started getting water in along the driveway, and they put in a little strip drain. Those are the ones that we're going to find here. We're not going to find somebody who's got a chemical plant and they're dumping everything down the basins.
Right. But they're there.
They are there, yes.
So they at least need to be documented and what
Yes.
we're going to do about
Yep,
it. Some of which we own.
yes.
Well, I think the
But
point...
if they're documented, then we meet the requirement of the 2003.
I know. But
That's a question.
I'm saying
not
that,
a statement.
but when you don't know what's there, you don't know the cost yet. So while we say, go get it, finish, and they find a pipe, and then they start chasing a pipe, and they find out it's tied into Pine Hill, and then the thing
Clearly
is,
we'll have to deal with
there's
this.
the unknown.
We'll have to deal with those things, but I think what we want to do is we want to satisfy EPA.
Well, to a
For the
point.
existing
They've got
permit.
To a point.
No, to the
it's
point where
the
they
new-
say you are.
Well, we do, but we also have to do things.
2003 permit.
Yeah, we're working on, and we're working on
And
that.
then I'm sure when the next permit comes along, or if it's a truly an environmental issue, we're going to have to go out.
How many towns in Massachusetts you think are compliant right now to 2003?
I don't know, but there are some that are.
There are some that are. Is
Right,
Natick?
because the IGDE plan that's asked to be developed is just, we found X amount of illicit discharges, and this is our plan to ask them to disconnect. It's not specifically requiring them at that very moment to disconnect, because say you had like a commercial shopping center that's been around since 1960, it's connected into your system. You can't just be like, I'm disconnecting you. You have to work with the development. I know we don't have that here, but you would have to work with the development or the person to figure out how they're going to disconnect and what the effects are. So it's more of like a plan. And I don't know off the top of my head how many are in compliant. But I know that there are people that have already done all this mapping and are at the end and ready to wrap up.
And
But aren't you...
to my point, and I want to make the point that there's, just satisfying EPA is awesome, but we're not going to shut the town down to do it. There's huge value, to your point before was, at the state level, you guys are pushing EPA off, and that's great. But this isn't just money spent to satisfy EPA. This is money spent to learn about the systems that we have that were built that no one even knows exist. There's great value in what we're doing. The three of us spent an awful lot of time last year chasing water around baseball fields in Pine Hill, and we didn't know where the pipes were. And
Well, that's actually an excellent point, because the whole purpose of these permits is to improve the environment. That's ultimate what EPA is doing. It's a very good purpose. It's the second permit that hasn't issued yet that has the teeth that requires the remedial steps. Right now, this is the education, data gathering, monitoring portion of sort of planning phase. It's the second permit that we're trying to hold off. But I think one of the other points you're making is if we find something that's not environmentally safe, we're finding it not just to satisfy EPA, but it's something that we need to address. It happens to be a municipal building. You mentioned the fire station, but if it is the
Well,
fire
and
station,
I'm not saying it's not environmentally safe. It's illicit. True? There's roof drains going in the storm system. It's illicit.
Right, and under the second permit.
Not a big deal.
Each,
It's gonna be.
but
each
that's
site.
if we know about it, then we can start making plans for it. And it's better that we plan for it on our timetable, consistent with our budgets, than suddenly being given an order that we have 30 days to
Right.
dig up a parking lot, dig out conduits that
Right.
are 3-4 feet down, all that kind of stuff. So we can,
Well,
we
we'll
do,
we'll certainly be in a better position to negotiate something like that if our paperwork is in order.
Yeah.
And we're in compliance, so.
yes, so I think I think we're all in agreement that to the extent that we can get compliance with the permit, we should. And and I'm trying to assure you that that doesn't mean spending money to dig up parking lots. and
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Make these fixes.
No, that's going to happen
No.
anyway.
It'll happen with the second permit. And then there's the question of who's going to pay for it.
Yeah, and I wasn't making that. I didn't.
No, I think what
I
Sean,
want to caution against yanking resources away from what we're trying to do in town with paving roads and everything else to just jump at something that we've been steadily working at for quite some time. And a lot of it is in the hands of a contractor that's probably pretty busy this summer.
and I think to Sean's point too, what he was getting at is we are gathering a lot of useful data, and this data has helped us up at Pine Hill. And given the new regulations that may be coming into place, has altered the plan for Pine Hill. And
Certainly did.
So, which actually, I mean, completely turned the whole thing around. And so this data was useful in the new regulations and changing of what we were going to do in the future. It may cost us more money, however, we're going to be full compliance.
So are you in disagreement with a sense of the board to encourage them to?
No, I'm not in disagreement with that at all. They should be encouraged to go as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Okay.
And-
I just don't want
and-
to I don't want them to short sell it to us and say, yeah, well, it'll be done in August.
Well, and to complete no later than September 1.
Make that
My
as a,
suggestion.
how about changing the word to target completion rather than making it sounding so mandatory? I mean,
Right, because I'm not
I'll
agreeing
be,
with
I'll
a no
be,
date.
I'll be speaking to AECom.
That's what
either
we're in disagreement about.
tomorrow or Friday, and as soon as I get a target date from them, I can certainly shoot you guys an email and tell you guys what this is what we're looking at.
yeah, sometimes in life, if you don't give people deadlines, they'll put it off. And AirCom is very busy, and we have other communities that are basically giving them deadlines. And if they don't have a deadline from us, human beings being what they will do the things that they need to do first before they do the things that they don't have to do. So part of asking for a deadline is not to make your life difficult. It's to light a fire under AirCom so that we can get into their schedule book and make sure they have us calendared for a date, which means that they'll be actually doing the work.
We received, I think, our GIS, GPS training, a month ago?
It was on May 4th.
May 4th. And since then, in looking at the overall map between myself and AECom, this is all the basins, manholes, outfalls we've logged.
All right, I got a question. you're working on some of this mapping. Are you working on what AECom's not working on?
Yes.
Okay. They're handling that, the urbanized area.
They're handling the urbanized area, the outfalls, and when I initially got it was prior to them coming to town or when they were not using the unit. And when I had the free time, as I did Oldfield, I did Pine Hill School, CM&D building. I did a little work over at the Sitco just because I knew exactly where everything was from going through it with Sue Tyler a couple of years ago.
Okay, you're just doing the stuff that they're not doing.
Yeah.
Is built into their contract the details that they're going to need for getting through downtown and
Yes.
on the heavy roads? That's already built into their contract?
Yes.
The cost of that?
Yep.
Well, this has been a great discussion.
Great.
Very informative. Thank you.
I'd like to say a couple of things.
Oh.
One is that Bridget goes above and beyond on this stuff, because every time something comes up, she comes into my office and it's starting at ground zero. So I have to hear the same thing from the start over and over again, and it's really, she does a great job bringing me up to speed. And it's not necessarily the duty of a conservation agent to be, leading the charge and be the expert on this stuff. But, so I much appreciate that. And Ed's,
Very appreciative that she's very good at it.
and Ed's interest in
Thank you, Bridget.
building some sort of digital structure is appreciated. And it's slow, it's slow going, but we'll get there. On the cover page of this Nifty's, the general permit, I think the year 12 is April 1, 2014 to March 31st, 2015. So
Or 15 to 16?
So
So
year
it's 1 day
13 would
backwards.
be, year 13 would be 4/2015 to 3/31/16.
Oh, the cover page?
Yeah.
All right, well, so this is just my copy because,
Cover page would be my fault.
No,
then.
no, no, this one. It starts
The
the day
actual
after.
permit?
It starts the day after it finishes.
The permit report?
oh, so this one I just pulled, this is not the one that was filed, just to let you know. This is just my copy that I gave back to Ed after I made my edits because I couldn't find the signed copy from Ed.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
all.
Right.
So this may not be the final thing, I don't have the signed
Okay.
one from Ed.
But year 12 is April 1st, 2014 to March
Right.
31st, 2015. And then the year 13 that's referred to in there will be starting next April.
Right.
So, okay. That's all I have to say.
So I think I know the answer to this, but who is responsible for ensuring compliance with EPA regulations in the town?
Probably ultimately the Board of Selectmen, so on a day-to-day, it would be me. I have this on my calendar to make sure that the report is filed, and like a 30-day tickler to make sure that it's being worked on to be filed. And then whatever we work on during the year, we try to come in, I think we're in about 6 months ago with a stormwater update. So throughout the year, there'll be other issues that come up, but I would say it's,
I think once there was talk of the new NEPS permit coming out, it was myself, Bridget, Gino, and we all kind of banded together and shared resources and kind of muddled our way through what was going to be coming and how to plan for it. And Bridget has done a great job in taking the lead and keeping the good files and good historical happenings because as we do come into meetings like this once every year, new board members come in, it is tend to get lost in translation of exactly what transpired.
Right.
It is very confusing.
And the last thing that I wanted to mention was the equipment that Ed is using here. Took about a year of sorting out like how much was allocated towards the equipment, finding the equipment, getting it from the right vendor, getting it delivered, getting it installed, and then getting trained to use it, and then going out and using it. And I think, Mark, with your involvement with that, the swap committee, I think one time I had mentioned that we were getting some equipment that other communities might be able to use. So we were incurring this expense instead of calling in an outside company to come in and do a plot point every time we need a plot point, that we have the equipment, we can do our own. So that also means we can share some of that with another community if they need a plot point drafted.
Yeah, that's one of the issues
Yeah.
that came up.
Oh, really?
That's a good
Okay.
one. Well, I think you were in the same meeting,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they talked about sharing GIS.
yeah. So
So I guess my concern is,
that
do
sharing.
we have enough
Good.
depth on the training? you know, if
Right now, if they need a plot point plotted, I think we can do that.
It's actually really easy. You can train
Is it?
somebody in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, the taking of the points is very easy. What I'm looking forward to is extended training
but
on.
excuse me, but on the GIS mapping is more complicated, right? 'Cause
Probably for somebody
we
that-
spend $5,000 for some kind of training.
Oh, yeah,
So the
there-
$5,000 was basically the unit comes with like nothing on it. It needs all of the information and like the logs that Ed's using, that Simply City.
So that's setup, it's not
So that-
necessarily training.
So it's setup and training. The training actually was only, I think, if you look at the bill, I think it was only like $1,000 to train the staff. It wasn't really that much money. It was just setting up the unit itself and being able, because you need to have the program on the unit to take the points and then convert it over to People GIS and them to hold the data.
communities about 3 to 4 times the size of Sherborn would have a full-time position just doing GIS maps, and they would be a resource for all the other departments. But we're not that size, so I think that's why it's a good sharing thing, because I'm sure some of the communities involved in that swap collaborative have at least half-time people devoted to doing GIS stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to generate maps, like the average person can actually use this maps online and generate their own maps that they can print up, which is more user-friendly than something like Gino and I have, because we have ArcGIS 10, and we can create data files. But this would, as the public, you can just click on that layer button and add the layers, and then there's a button over here that says print, and you can generate. Yeah, so you can turn those layers on and off, and then there's the little print button that actually prints a whole little map. So like the public can do that, or we can do that to give to the public and things like that, which is really beneficial, because right now I do that for a lot of residents, and this makes it a lot easier. To be honest with you, it's a lot quicker than me generating a map in ArcGIS, so.
It's a matter of just coming over here, clicking print. It generates.
Go back to 2003 one more time. We're not going to submit anything further until April 1st next year, right?
Oh, for the NIPTs, for the MS4 permits,
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll not have to submit, the deadline's May 1st.
okay.
Yeah. So next 2016, in the beginning of the year, Ed, Gino, and I
So if
take a
we're
look at
compliant
this.
tomorrow, there's no further work that's going to go to DEP between
You
now
will
and...
always generate these reports. Doesn't matter if we're compliant or not. To be
But-
compliant, you have to submit an annual report saying you're working
And
towards
that's all you
compliance,
said.
or you're compliant.
Right,
Yep.
So
They won't
it-
hear from us until next year.
yeah. So the deadline we're giving you is for you to come back and say, we're done. We got next year's annual report. It'll be, in theory, if it's September
that
1st, it'll be 6 months early, but that's what we're shooting for.
Right, that, or if something else happens in the meantime that we're made aware of, that the new permit's gonna drop, we will
Well,
having to
obviously, that's a
start
change.
repair, yeah.
Yeah, I'm referring to the old one, if it's status quo still.
So if you wanna do an annual update, we can do an annual update right after we,
They'll definitely come in each year after the reports
Right.
go in, when the report goes in, but usually they've been in, mid-year sometime for some reasons, for some purpose. And they can also come in anytime you want them to.
As I mentioned before, there's 351 cities and towns. The 351 are united, and as their spokesman, we're pretty clear. This permit, the new permits, won't issue with the financial obligations that are coming, that are spelled out in the drafts that are out for public comment. That doesn't mean that EPA can revise the permits, eliminate some of the financial obligations, and issue it at any time. And at the time they issue that permit, it would be very advantageous to the town to be in compliance with the prior permit. So that we start as a compliant community rather than to start on the basis we're not even compliant with a permit that expired a long time ago.
Right.
It was only a
2008.
five-year permit to begin with.
it was only, 5-year permit, 2008, yeah.
So, any further discussion? Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I should say before we get to the next agenda item that both our Chair Mike Giamo and Chuck Yan wanted to be here today, but for various reasons were not able to be here. We miss them. We understand that these things happen from time to time. And so the next item on the agenda is the Town Administrator report.
Okay. Just a few things to update you on. We've been working with the Lieutenant Governor's office on the community compact. So that I sent you an email just a while ago about giving you an update on who we heard from and where we are with getting that passcode. So it was specified that it needs to be the chair of the Board of Selectmen. So right now it would be Mike Giamo getting that code, but you guys could you could vote at some point and designate me as the point of contact for it, and then we'll just bring you whatever you need to vote on. So then I'm starting up a cabinet meeting. Well, I call it a cabinet meeting. It's the police chief, fire chief, CM&D director, and the finance director. And I'm planning to meet on Tuesdays at 11:30 each week, and then publicize to the community that they could come in at noon on Tuesdays if they had any issues or questions that we could work on. And we'd also have be able to take care of some things before they end up at a selectmen's meeting. So people have another opportunity besides public comment. So it'll be noon on Tuesdays, and we're starting that June 23rd at noon, so we'll get some publicity out about that. And I don't expect a lot of people, but we might as well, if we're here meeting anyway, we might as well open it up to the community. Did you have a question?
No, I think it's a fabulous idea. It's a great
Okay.
idea. And I hate to actually bring it up, but the noon thing is difficult for a lot of people.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess if it's important enough, they'll take the time off to come in and do it. But
Right.
maybe occasionally it could be done at a different time if it's a little more accessible for people.
Okay. Yeah, we were thinking noon lunchtime, but most people are not local for lunchtime. Yeah.
You're talking about for the July 15th?
No. I'm talking about this staff/cabinet meeting
Oh,
that
hit,
he's
yeah.
proposing, which I
Yeah.
really encourage you. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Let me start on the 23rd that day, and then
Once in a while, maybe,
hit like a late afternoon, early
or in the
evening.
morning.
Okay, or morning. Yeah.
That's so that we're paying overtime for people to come.
Not most of them.
None of these people.
No, it's perfect.
We're also, as you know, trying to catch up the minutes, doing an inventory on all the outstanding regular session and executive session minutes. Executive session minutes basically they have to go to town council and be reviewed to make sure that there's no pending litigation, and then it has to come into executive session to be voted to be released into the public. And that's usually what towns kind of fall behind on, is that executive session piece. So we're looking to see what that situation is. We're also, normally in the summer, we don't have a minutes person, and it falls on Diane to keep up with the minutes. And we've been able to work that out, and our goal is to have draft minutes within a week. I think in the past it's been a couple of weeks. So our minutes person does not attend our meeting. We get a video the next day and it goes to them, and then they do minutes from that. We're working on improvements in this room. I've talked to a few people about different concepts of way to set this up and technology. One of them is, this table, I didn't want to destroy the table, but I also would like it to be arched so that there's more discussion between the two of you, as that's what the purpose of the meeting is for you all to be discussing with each other. And when all 5 of you there, you have a tendency to push back in an arc away from the mics anyway. So I have a couple of different drawings that we've come up with of how to fix that to get you guys on an arch. And then we want to try to have more visual aids, at least have the agenda up on the screen for the whole meeting. And we're debating on whether we continue with the projector and the screen, or we invest in a bigger TV and just, like a Bluetooth connection that we send whatever the presentation is to that TV screen. So we have it.
I'll forget this, and I got to interrupt. Have you seen the screens that Pine Hill has?
No.
The classrooms? Those things are awesome. Because they have their own projector. They're coming off of somebody's laptop or whatever. They're also touchscreen.
Yeah, those are the smart screens. Yeah, smart boards. Yeah.
Whiteboards or something?
Well, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, they call it a smart board, smart screen. It's an interactive screen. I've never seen one at a municipality.
I haven't either.
Yeah. We could
Maybe
be
that's
the first.
because schools have all the money to buy it.
Yeah. I'm just going to write it down to see if that's
It's
an
just,
application.
a couple of years ago, they had a few at Pine Hill, and I think CSA has completed putting
Oh yeah, in
on
every
every class.
classroom.
And they're,
Yeah.
they look really fancy, but then when you sit and watch a teacher make a presentation, it's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. So in here, you have to plug some sort of PC in, and then get your presentation going through the projector on the screen. I'd at least, as a first step, like to place a PC in here so it's here, so you only have to bring a thumb drive in to get something up on the screen, and then maybe replace it with that monitor. But I'll check to see what this could do, if this would be a good application for it.
I've lectured at a couple colleges around, and that's typically what they have is a PC connected to a projector, and you bring your presentation, you stick
Yeah.
your thumb drive in, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of money on this screen, and it was kind of ruined last year, and we were able to revive it. Actually, I don't think that was revived. I think we bought a new screen. Yeah.
It's nice and big.
So, yeah. So we might as well be using it if the projector's there and that's there. So we've been working on a DEP required landfill testing. So the DEP, I think it's every year or every other year, requires us to do water testing on like abutters around the landfill. So we submitted our plan to DEP on the properties that we were going to test, and they agreed to it. And then we contacted those landowners. We went on, we did the tests, we had the results, and everything was clean, so that's good. So we found nothing. It's been reported to DEP that we're reporting nothing, no problems with the landfill. So we'll get a confirmation letter back from them at some point, and then we'll distribute that letter. We're also working on...
What was the trigger that caused DEP to ask for that landfill?
I thought it was routine, since it was a closed landfill. I thought that they asked for this every 2 years. It's the first time I've experienced them asking for it, though. So...
There's an old order outstanding, maybe.
What's that?
There's an order outstanding for 20, 30 years that we
Right.
have to
For that one.
monitor the wells on a regular basis.
What's funny is we don't test Butler Street at the landfill. And we don't test it.
Well, it may not be registered with DEP.
where,
Site. We did a cleanup.
we don't test where?
7 Butler. We might start real quick when we find out. what's
Yeah,
on
we
top,
definitely
but
will be.
I
Yeah.
was wondering why DEP dropped that one, because that was a registered site. We did a cleanup on that site.
Well, way back when, there was an administrative consent order for the landfill here, and there were requirements had to be met.
Right.
And as part of the closure plans, we agreed there'd be these monitoring wells,
As we should.
and that they'd be checked on a regular basis.
It also has to do with, the first thing we had to do with figuring out where we were going to test on the landfill is verifying the water table so that we're testing in the right spot. There are actually two seemed to be two separate water tables, where one property looked like, I thought, well, this is the closest one to the landfill. Underground, the engineers were saying, no, that physically they're the closest, but it's not going to be impacted because of the, I guess, what happens underground. So, but yeah, we will be doing some more routine testing of that facility on CM&D. So.
You take a question here.
Yeah, about the capped landfill, remember, just a few hundred feet away is Natick's capped landfill. So any of this pollution that you find in Sherborn might be coming from Natick, so just keep it in mind.
The way the, if I remember right, the way that water table kind of flows,
Goes the other way.
yeah, it goes the other way towards Natick.
No, it doesn't. It comes through Sherborn.
We'll be talking about it next.
It comes out of Dug Pond and through a culvert under their landfill, out by the golf course entrance, and then into Indian Brook, Everett Street.
That may be, yeah, maybe that's, I don't fully understand water. Maybe surface water is different from the underground, but on June 24th, we're going to have some people in here, like Roger Demler, the water commissioner, talk about general chemical and the route that I saw of potential general chemical flowage was basically a U-shape back up into Natick. But we'll have to,
Of course, Brook goes back into the,
okay.
under Coolidge Street and
All right.
under Pond Street.
But that'll be an interesting discussion that night. So.
Very interesting. I commend Selectman Brandon for bird dogging the general chemical issue. He's been asking about it for some time, wanting it, and here it's coming.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So there was also, did I already mention the solid waste management plan? There's new regulations where you basically have to inspect your solid waste a couple of times a year to make sure that it's, I believe it was generated from, that you're not tossing recyclables and other things into the solid waste stream. And only certain volumes of vehicles need to be checked, I guess, randomly. So we're just getting on top of that. We have an outside person we're working with who's one of the few trained in the area, and she's going to help us get internal staff up to speed on it, and then internal staff can be the person checking, those loads. But I think it's an inspection that's done like twice a year. So we'll get you more information on that at some point. You have a question? Or
I'm envisioning that they're inspecting individuals' trash as it gets to the dump,
I
or
think
they're
when you
inspecting dumpsters
The
as
vehicle, I think he meant.
the vehicles that are in
Our
the
trucks
transfer
leaving.
station.
What's that?
Dump, like large
Okay.
garbage vehicles that are in the transfer station. We only have one vendor
That's when I
that,
first
Yeah.
said it too, but I don't think it's.
That's what I thought he was
Yeah.
saying, and then I thought there was going to be some
Guard-
gate checker
guard
on
guards,
top of the
yeah.
hill.
no, we
Have
have,
that open.
Get TSA in here.
we only have one vendor that uses the facility, but some other towns take, multiple vendors, and so they have to spot check each, vendor's vehicles. And but Carol Rubenstein is very good at randomly checking people's garbage up there, so I
not
wouldn't put that. It's not random. No. Also, the last 2 weeks we did kind of a forced equipment upgrade in the assessing office, bringing their computer equipment up to speed with the rest of town hall. As the new assessor started, we discovered some things we had concerned about things not being on our network, not being backed up, and that kind of thing. So the new equipment will integrate better with ours, and so we were able to do that with existing facilities money. So that was a good thing. And that's it. That's all I have.
One question, how are we doing on the carpeting replacement?
Carpeting replacement, we had I signed the contract.
Contract signed. They're
Yeah.
ordering the carpet. It looks as if they were doing it on alternate weekends, maybe Topville one weekend, so we don't have to shut the town hall down and then.
David, you pick the
following
color?
weekend. Yeah, it's all picked.
It's plaid. Yeah. The town clerk
I
picked
have a
it.
tie for it, I didn't have any complaints.
Elliot, you have a question for the town administrator?
I think you said that the ventilator's been quieted down.
Yes.
Well, no, actually, I just said that someone spent about, I don't know, a number of hours today taking it
Well,
apart.
it's been running during this meeting, correct?
It has, yes, sir.
And I will say, for the first time in 10 years, it's very acceptable. It's damn well about time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there are no further town administrator reports?
No, I didn't. No, I don't have anything else.
Then we'll turn to Sean Colleen, Selectman Colleen, with a playground update.
So, I asked for this update. It's a shame Mike's not here, because each time I've brought it up, I've been reminded that at least the former board, all three members were involved in the original build. So this is more for anyone that's not aware, A, that there's a playground at the end of the road past the tennis courts, and B, it's approaching 30 years old. No, I think it's 24. Either way,
Wow, I helped
It
build
needs-
it,
it
and I
needs to
don't
be
think it
removed.
was 30 years ago.
it
I
wasn't.
hope it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Plus or
It
minus.
stole a few years from me. So a group of people, my wife, myself, a handful of other people, I got to give props to Elizabeth Delaney for doing this update for me, because I asked for an update, and she, of course, writes a presentation for me. We're headed towards this fall, we're going to rebuild it. We've contracted a company called Play by Design, that their kind of model is community build, which is similar to what you guys did before, but this is on a grander scale. They handle how to do it. And essentially what's going to happen is Cemetery Lane, the parking lot, everything down there is going to turn into a massive construction site with tons of people. You're all invited. Not just like that.
Can I
To
bring
come help. Absolutely.
Can I bring the mallet, or do I have to
Definitely.
bring a real hammer?
Either way. The community build literally needs to involve hundreds of people. There's going to be people like myself that do it for a living that are going to be there all week, but there's not that many of us. So it's going to be lots of teams of people, and it's some of the machine work's going to be done before then, but the actual building of the units and everything that goes into it is going to be by our hands. And it's a pretty big scale. There's daycare that happens so that parents, can take days off of work and aren't tied down with their kids if their kids are home. It's in October, so it's a school week, but there's an awful lot of parents that can come, so they're gonna have daycare all day long. There's food that's brought in. It's a pretty big event.
Where do I sign up?
You already signed up.
Where do the citizens?
Well, there's a website, which is Sherborn Playground Rebuild, I think. They also have a Facebook page, which they didn't put on here, so I'm a little on the spot, but you can find it. There's been events throughout. They've already raised $150,000. The goal was 200 for by this fall.
Wow.
There's been a ton of great events. There's some more coming up. We're starting to gear up this summer. We'll be having visits from the professionals that Play by Design. I'll be meeting with them. Other team members will be meeting with them for the logistics of this thing. It's pretty big. And of course, all the materials that have to be ordered. That all is committees that we've developed, and people are working on that, and an outreach obviously for donations.
It's terrific.
So the week of October 20th to 25th is the actual build. We start work before that, but that's when anyone that could possibly come help, it would be greatly appreciated.
Could you take a moment and explain why? In other words, there is a playground there, but it was built years ago, and standards have changed, and
Yeah,
wear and tear has
actually,
changed.
that's,
So what are you doing differently than what's there now? What are the improvements? What's it going to look like, and why?
well, the bar was set really high years ago by you guys. What was built there was awesome. And it was a unique time, actually, because most communities over the past 8 to 10 years have been getting rid of their stuff because it was built with pressure-treated wood, and the arsenic and everyone found out was really bad. Ours was not. We hit a period of time when you guys built that. I can't think of the species of wood, but it's a wood that only grows in Canada. And despite NAFTA, Canada outlawed selling it to us. They restricted the trade. It can't leave Canada. So it was one of the only native species, North American woods, that was rot resistant and good enough to build playgrounds. So we're much more limited now. Things have changed. There's plastics and everything else. So it'll be different looking in, different materials. And by design, we're going to be a little bit more ADA compliant. That was built to the standards then. But they've changed. And obviously, with ADA compliance comes some maintenance that you have, there's upkeep. It's a playground. It's got surfaces that move and cushion and everything else. So you have to balance that in what you can use for ground cover and is it compliant.
Who's going to do the maintenance?
The town.
So
There's-
recreation?
Well, there's some conversations about that right now, because as you know, like a year and a half ago, we came to the town and said, listen, this is a town playground. There was never any town money funded to build it, to really maintain it. It was selectmen-controlled land, but now it's technically conservation. Doesn't really fit into what they normally take care of. It makes more sense that recreation would take over the long-term care of it, not to strap them with one more thing in their budget. But that fits into what they do. It also fits into the whole campus of what they want to improve over the next few years. Certainly they want to work on the tennis courts, as Mark has mentioned, and obviously beautifying the whole area. We with the playground, it's the tail end of the area, and that leads through the parking lot, the skate park, to the tennis courts, the ball fields.
Maintenance is key. A little bit of maintenance in year 3 or 4 is going to avoid a big problem in year 7.
Right, and I think it's important to bring that up because the town needs to embrace that. It's not much. We're building something that's pretty low maintenance.
Out of wood or metal or plastic?
All of those things, yeah. The structures really don't need much at all. They need annual or biannual inspections. I think it's annual inspections, just to make sure that there's nothing deteriorating that's going to cause risk. But it's more the ground cover. There's most likely going to be some pour-in-place rubber.
Yeah, there must be some kind of estimates.
There is. I didn't want to bring all that here and make a huge presentation.
I mean, this is going to be a $200,000 basic gift to the town, essentially. I mean, wouldn't it make sense to set up a revolving fund for the maintenance?
You could set up a revolving fund or take care of it within facilities.
Revolving fund has to have income, and I don't think the plan was to
Yeah.
charge families to use the playground.
No,
But
I mean,
we-
there's a 501c that was created originally that did the initial gift to the town. It stayed in existence, still does. I mean, that's where all this money's going. It always had a little bit of money. It was trying to, keep up the place.
Maybe it's as simple as just a budget line item.
Well, the recreation will have a revolving fund next year. So, I mean, if they incorporated that into theirs, that would be great for maintaining. Or if it's something CM&D can work into maintaining as they help us with Farm Pond, or we just roll it into facilities, which is seen through the Selectmen's office. If we know that there's, each quarter we have to do an inspection or whatever that maintenance is.
Right. I think it's important. I mean, last time it was, the town didn't really want anything to do with it when they built it. It was, okay, go ahead and build it, but we're not maintaining it for you. And, I mean, those times have changed. You can't really do that. The town can't ignore the, I mean, it's being given to the
I just want to
town.
avoid the situation we have at the
Well,
tennis courts,
Right.
where nobody has ownership of it, and you see the result.
It should be a
So I think
regulation.
somewhere along the line, it's got to be very clear who owns the playground and who's responsible for maintaining it.
Well, I see it as a town council.
I don't think it's going to be a ton of money, but
It's not.
it's important.
It's not.
Where kids get injured and on playground equipment, and then they sue the town.
Right.
So I've seen a number of those. And some of the injuries are pretty nasty. Kids can get hurt on defective equipment.
Right.
So,
And that was the case I brought to the town a couple of years ago. Look, you can't pretend it's not yours. You know, you're liable for it. It's on town property.
it's on public property. If we have recreation involved in it, you have some supervision. It's, from a risk management point of view, you have this facility, but you have nobody supervising it at all. So it's like operating a pool with no lifeguards. You have no one there other than the parents. And there aren't even parents there. The kids just are over in a playing field or whatever, and they go over to or they used to, go over to the playground and make use of the equipment. No adults there at all.
Right.
So it's
Which is clearly why there's well-developed standards for playgrounds that, you know, if you're proving that you're doing your inspections and maintaining it, I think you're pretty well covered. I mean, you have the same issue with the tennis courts. I mean, someone get hurt in the tennis court, you know, as long as the fence didn't fall down on someone, we're really not liable.
But I guess we should task either the finance director or the town administrator first to make sure that the new facility is going to be covered under our insurance policies, and secondly to find a home for this, maybe in
Right.
recreation, or somebody having general ownership responsibility
Right.
to police the area and to keep track of it in the years ahead.
Yeah, I think I'll do that because it's, you know, it's an operational issue of year-round maintenance. And I believe when we talked about a year and a half ago that I had checked with insurance at that time what would happen. And it's not like we're going to have somebody stand there and have everyone sign releases as they enter the playground. So it's, you know, we're going to be on the hook for it. But I don't think insurance has come down and actually inspected it to see, but I believe it is on our property list, and I'll verify.
So that's the nice thing about school-operated facilities. The schools have everybody sign releases. It's at the risk of the parents, but here we have a facility that there will be no releases.
Right.
And so with that comes the liability. And we have to plan for that. And the best plan for that is to make sure the kids are safe to begin with.
Right, which we've actually done a poor job of, up to date. Not when it was built, but, you know, there was a void there where it wasn't, I mean, it's aging, it needed some work, so we chose, we're not gonna work on it, we're gonna replace it, here we are.
My children really enjoyed this playground. There's a couple of bricks there with our names on it. It's a wonderful thing for families. Very much 100% in support of this. I commend you for all the work that you've done on it, and Elizabeth Delaney and others. This is truly in a great community spirit, making our town better. Thank you.
Thanks.
Got on the calendar.
Are we all set for the next meeting on June 24th? Have you run it by Mike and Chuck?
Yes. Well, yes.
Just check mine. Is that a Wednesday?
Yes.
Yep, I'm good for that too. So we're all in agreement? June 24th it is.
Okay. And then in July, we were just speculating the 8th and the 22nd as the regular meetings.
Yes, we got this email about the 15th. When are we going to do the year-end transfers?
Irene and I talked today, and we're going to try everything possible to have it all wrapped up on the 8th for your meeting then, so there isn't any need for another meeting. If something comes in on the 9th, there may need to be something, but we're just going to try to push and publicize that, you know, you gotta check these things more, and we need to encumber before a little earlier than we normally let people go for their encumbrances, and hopefully we'll have it all for you on the 8th.
So, can we also have consensus that there'll be a meeting on the 8th? We're all available?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, would it have made it easier to just have a regular meeting on the 15th? Or do you not want it to be easier? That's just going to make everyone wait till the last minute anyway.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
I mean, it wouldn't bother me to just show up for a meeting for just that anyway. And that's why I suggested I didn't care.
But at certain times of the year, there's a need for a really quick meeting by the Board of Selectmen. It could be signing some sort of bond or something that needs to be executed that day. And so this is that type of meeting. There
Right.
wouldn't be in the agenda. I mean, there would be a posted agenda that you're going to meet for the
Right.
purpose of signing this, you know, approving these supplementals. Ideally, the preference is to have them come to a full meeting and discussed at a regular meeting. But that's, you know, I saw the emails today on who was available to meet. I think it was on the 15th at noon was proposed. But we don't want to set that yet. That was kind of
fine.
just a heads up.
I mean, I don't see why, I mean, this is something that comes around every year. We should be able to get it done.
For,
Either have a full meeting on the 15th in the evening, or let's do it on the 8th.
yeah, I just can't remember what the problem was with meeting on the 15th. Or maybe it was just because we were sticking to the second and third. I mean,
The
second
problem
and
is that
fourth
she
weeks.
literally could not have the data by the 8th.
Yeah, I
In
thought,
case payroll comes in case,
Well, we moved, we solidified what we're going to do on the July 4th holiday. So the office isn't going to be closed on the Monday. So we're going to, you know, there's one more day of work before the 8th. I mean, what you'll get, it'll be on the 8th. It won't be in your packet before. It'll be on the 8th.
it almost seems like it makes more sense not to have a meeting on the 8th and to have it on the 15th, because you have the 4th of July holiday. I mean, are we all available on that?
I mean, that's what I would suggest.
Let me
Shoot for the 15th. Make
let
it
me
an
look
odd week.
into it, because I think that I thought there was a conflict with the 15th.
Yeah,
But let
let's
me,
not do it at noon.
No, not if we're doing a real meeting, no.
no, if you're doing a meeting instead of the 8th,
Other, you know, I'm gonna run down here and sign something.
but let me double check on why we were looking at those dates and send out a feeler to see when we could do that. But, you know, you could still set that on the 24th. You don't have to, we only need 2 days notice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That brings us to approval of minutes. And
Chairman, 1 second. We have 20 days left in this fiscal year. If there's any money left over, we got 20 days to spend.
we have 20 days to save it. Does,
You don't say, you
there's
don't
no-
say
there's
you
no
don't
want to
have
encourage you.
spend your budget.
we don't want to encourage people to go out on a spending spree.
If you
Rather-
don't, you won't get it next year, is what I'm saying. Okay.
We have the issue of minutes. There's a whole batch of minutes. We're pretty far behind on the minutes. The Attorney General's guidance is to have these minutes done promptly. Unfortunately, most of these minutes all of these minutes relate to the period before my two colleagues here were on the board. They have been reviewed by Mike Giamo, they have been reviewed by myself, they have been reviewed by Peter Caruso. All our comments and edits have been put into these minutes. For them to have a formal vote of adoption, there would have to be a vote of at least one selectman who was not present at those meetings. If there is no selectman willing to vote those minutes because they weren't there, there is a fallback procedure, which is the person who prepared the minutes would sign them as being a true record, and they just get filed that way. And they have, all the corrections have been made. So the issue then is for the two of you whether or not you are willing to take a vote on these, or you want not to.
I will. Knowing that Peter has reviewed them and that Michael did not have, or his changes were.
No changes.
So I will, is if you just note in the minutes that I'm merely voting to submit them and not as any sign of approval of the contents.
Okay?
Is that a motion?
There was a motion made by Selectman Brandon to approve the minutes with the caveat that
Well, that was just for me. You can just,
Well, it should be part of a motion.
you can just make
You and I can both.
make a motion.
I will move approval of the minutes with the caveat that any selectman voting in favor of it who was not present is only doing it as an accommodation.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? That brings us to the end of the meeting. Is there anything further that anyone has?
Just,
Or forever hold your peace?
I just need 2 signatures on the payroll warrant. 3
Oh.
signatures, I'm sorry.
We have the town administrator's payroll warrant. I move that we approve the town administrator's payroll warrant for the period 6/11/2015.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
This isn't discussion, but I had a question. I thought we had changed it where David could sign these. Why are we signing payroll
It's his
warrants?
salary. It's his
It's
salary.
his own
We
salary.
have to approve his salary.
I can't,
Under the
there's
State
some,
Ethics Act.
there are a number of different interpretations, so for right now, we're taking it strict that each time I get paid, the warrant has to come in and be signed by the selectmen. There are some other options we're looking at that could not get around that, but only when it's something different that it would come to you, that you're
Yeah, that would make
paying
sense.
under the contract each week unless something's different.
And this is the
But-
usual amount.
That's the standard amount, yeah.
You didn't add all those zeros that you were talking about before?
No,
Just kidding.
no, and that's paid out every Wednesday night. No, not every Wednesday night, every 2 weeks. But the rest of the warrant is available to be reviewed in the office if you want to go through those.
Is there anything else?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? We're done.
Nice job. Thank you.